Time now to talk to the government. I'm joined by Cabinet Minister Nick Thomas-Symonds. He's here with me. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us. You today are going to accuse Nigel Farage of wanting to see British business fail. That's quite an accusation. So why are you saying that?
Well, today I'm going to be setting out the advantages, the material benefits for people up and down the country of the new arrangements that this government has secured with the European Union back on the 19th of May. Going to be talking about how good that is for jobs, not least renewable jobs in the North Sea. Going to talk about the additional tools we have to secure our borders, not least in terms of things like more criminal record sharing, but also, crucially, the downward pressure on bills for families up and down the country. And just take, for example, to your specific question, the issue of trade in food and drink with the EU, where we have some exporters here in the UK who are just, because of the red tape and the cost, not actually exporting to the EU anymore at all. But for those that are, they are facing significant financial costs. So, for example, something like an export health certificate, if you're trading in certain types of food, where businesses are having to pay £200 per consignment. So not just a one-off fee, but per consignment. And what Nigel Farage is saying, who, by the way, before even seeing the details of this deal, said he was going to rip it up, he is saying, and Reform are saying, to all those businesses up and down the country, they want to reintroduce all those costs, all that red tape that we are getting rid of. But that is anti-business, and he needs to be upfront about it.
OK, well, he's not actually rooting for business to fail. He can disagree with your approach without wanting businesses to suffer. And he would say that actually Labour is doing more damage to business themselves, not least because of the rise in national insurance, in employers' national insurance.
Well, firstly, in respect of the position that Nigel Farage took, which was not to even look at the details of the deal, but just jump in. No assessment of national interest, no assessment of what's the interest of families.
OK, but what about his point about the rise in national insurance and the effect that's having on businesses?
With regard to the rise in national insurance, we had to take very difficult decisions to stabilise the public finances with our inheritance. Stabilising the public finances is in the interests of business and families up and down the country, but also money that we have raised is going into significant investment in our National Health Service. That will mean a healthier workforce. That will mean people who are finding themselves on waiting lists for procedures but who otherwise would be working will be able to come back into work. That is in not just the interest of those people who don't have to continue to live on that waiting list, but it's in our economic interest as a country as well.
But we've heard this morning that the energy price cap is going up by another 2%. That means people's energy bills and businesses' energy bills are rising. And also, you talk about stability, but long-term borrowing costs are close to a 27-year high, which isn't a ringing endorsement of the government, especially when you get senior economists talking about that being a moron's premium, they call it, basically saying we're paying extra because of decisions, unfortunate decisions by the government.
Well, look, if you look at borrowing, that obviously significantly increased under the previous government. But let me just take for a moment the point about energy and the rise in the energy price cap, because, of course, that will be a concern for families up and down the country. But the primary reason why we have energy prices at the level we do is still, I'm afraid, as a consequence of Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine. That's why the wholesale price of gas is still 75% above what it was before Putin's illegal invasion. And that is a reminder, a stark reminder of why we need to get off the roller coaster of fossil fuel prices, is why we need to be investing in that clean, homegrown energy. That is what will give us energy security and bring bills down in the long term.
What about borrowing costs? Are we paying a moron's premium?
And just, look, I wouldn't use that language. But let me just say, in respect of energy costs, it is also the case that this year now, we will be expanding the Warm Homes discount to 2.7 million more households, an extra £150. That is help for people now. That will be, of course, in addition to the decisions this government is taking to upgrade our national grid, to upgrade and to push forward renewable projects. The previous government, from 2015, had put a block on onshore wind development. We've lifted it. So we are moving forward both to bring bills down, but also to give us that energy security as well.
You're focusing your argument on Nigel Farage when it comes to EU relations today. How worried are you about the rise of reform, the fact that you're choosing to make him your target? I'm just looking at the latest Sky YouGov Times polling which shows that Labour is at its lowest level in Parliament. You can see it on screen there, literally. I'm looking at it as you are. Reform on 28%, you're down 1 point at 20%, the lowest in this Parliament. What's your reaction to that?
Well, we've had to take what we know are very difficult decisions to stabilise the public finances early in this Parliament. What drives me, and I'm the person who led the negotiations for the EU deal that we have, is our national interest. And that is why, if you look across the range of things that we've agreed, the opportunities for new jobs, particularly in renewable energy, but also the additional tools that we will have to ensure that for criminals there's no place on our continent to hide. But in addition to that, we are saying that we will be reducing significantly costs and burdens for business. That is acting in the national interest. That is not about particular opinion polls you're showing me today. That is about work the Prime Minister asked me to do and to prepare for before this government came into office. And that is what this government does. It does the hard yards of delivery for the British people. What Nigel Farage does is to stoke problems and offer empty promises for their solution.
OK, and on the subject of Nigel Farage, yesterday he made his big announcement about his plans for tackling migration. I wonder what you made of it. What do you think of the ambition to carry out mass deportations? Would you like to see hundreds of thousands of migrants deported?
Well, this government has already deported 35,000 people with no right to be here.
But what about the plans for mass deportations that he's outlined? Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, I wouldn't describe him as having outlined plans. I mean, reform promised 4 months ago a comprehensive, detailed plan. I think we can safely say we are still waiting for it. We've heard about detention from Nigel Farage. He won't tell you where. He won't tell you about his plans for women and children who come here. But in addition to that, I heard Nigel Farage yesterday saying that he is going to negotiate with hostile regimes. He can't even negotiate the politics of a parliamentary party that could fit in the back of a taxi, let alone negotiate with the world's most difficult regimes.
Well, would you be open to doing deals with countries like Afghanistan and Eritrea?
Well, we already do deport people back to Afghanistan who have no right to be here, and we will continue to do that. But what this government is doing is putting in place those practical plans that are going to make a difference to the boats in the English Channel, whether that is the one-in, one-out pilot deal to return people who've come here to France, whether that is in terms of action, changes in maritime law for the French authorities to intercept boats in shallow water, whether that is the work we're doing internationally to tackle the criminal smuggler gangs and tackle migration at source. Recently, the Home Office, Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, agreeing a deal with Iraq in that respect. There is no silver bullet to this problem, but it's this government that's putting those measures in place. And when we are putting through Parliament, by the way, a bill that will mean that our law enforcement can use anti-terrorism style powers against people smugglers, Reform and the Conservatives are blocking it every step of the way.
OK, Nick Thomas-Symonds, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.